gosh. Managing to read 9 books in January is a huge accomplishment, I'd say, because things are going crazy in the world. Fires, sicknesses. I had COVID, flu, and the stomach virus all at the same time a couple weeks ago. I still managed to read 9 books, so I will gladly pat myself on the back for that. Everyone, my name is Heather and welcome to the channel Bookables, and welcome to my first ever wrap up of 2025. So if you are new to this channel and you don't know what exactly is going on, at the end of every month, beginning of the month, I talk about what books I read the previous month. So here we're talking about January. I tell you what books I read. I usually do them in order of my least favorite, working up to my favorite. I tell you my rating, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it. As always, the links will be down below if I've reviewed about any of these books in particular, or vlogs or things like that. Like I said, I managed to read 9 books this month, which is a really big accomplishment because things are crazy in the world. Sicknesses just went rampant in my house, like insanely. Like I got sick with 3 things. The kids got sick with 3 things. It's just it was literally a sick bay in this house for 2 freaking weeks. But hey, maybe that's gonna be us. Maybe that's gonna be the sicknesses until like summertime, which it is what it is. Either way, let's get on to the books I read. I read 9. I'm gonna start with my least favorite, working up to my favorite. First up, I'm going to have to start with my 3 stars. I have about 3 of them this month, so, you know, not too bad. I'm going to start with Dream Girl Drama by Tessa Bailey. This is her 3rd book in her sports kind of series. I read the first 2, didn't really love them. I wasn't planning to read this one at all, but I was really kind of invested in the characters because I knew this one was coming and I was most excited about it. And I will say it's my favorite of the series. Even still, I give it like a 3.5 out of 5. Follows 2 characters, Chloe and I forget Sig, pretty much. He is a professional hockey player. She is a professional harp player. They meet one night. The chemistry is booming. It's amazing. They kiss, and then they're both like, "Oh, I have to go to this family dinner. You know, let's exchange numbers, and we'll meet later." So they both go to their family dinners, only to see each other there because surprise, their parents are getting married and they're going to be step siblings soon. So they're like, crap. So the whole book is them fighting this really intense attraction while also realizing they should not give into it because they're going to be siblings soon, and then kind of going on from there. I did enjoy it. I like the chemistry out of all of her books in this series. I'd say the chemistry between these 2 is very palpable. He was very much a protector and doing everything for her. Chloe was a bit of a rich girl. She like kind of left everything she knew, and she let Sig pay for her rent and pay for everything, and she would spend like $500 on eye creams at Sephora, and she'd be like, maybe I shouldn't do that. And I'm like, really? Maybe? Then again, I mean, this one is, you know, if you're not invested in the series, I would maybe skip it. It wasn't amazing, so I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, so there you have it. Then I have Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. This really breaks my heart. So I love Alice Feeney books. You know what? No, I'm not going to say that. I enjoy most of her books. My favorite of hers is Daisy Darkers. The other 3 I've read, I haven't loved, so maybe that was just kind of a fluke. So this book follows a character named Grady, who is an author, and at the beginning of the book, he's really excited because he's learning that his newest release is becoming a New York Times bestseller. And so he's waiting for his wife to get home to celebrate, but then all of a sudden he's on the phone with her, and she sees somebody like in the middle of the road, and she's like, I have to help them, and then next thing you know, she's disappeared, and Grady has no clue what's going on. And so it picks up a year later, and he's still very devastated. He can't write, and so his agent's like, hey, why don't you go to this island where another one of my writers used to go, and he had a cabin out there, and it really helped him connect with nature, write more, and he's like, fine. And so he goes to this island and learns there's like only females there. There's no like set ferry schedule. There's no phones. I mean, it was red flag after red flag after red flag, like so many red flags. It was insanity. But he was still like, I'll stay. So it kind of goes on from there of what exactly happened to his wife, what exactly is going on with this island. You get the drift. It was just okay. I didn't really enjoy it. I gave it a 3 out of 5. Definitely one of my least favorite Alice Feeney books. Then I have Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. Gillian Flynn. I read this because Gabby from Gabby Reads invited me to be a co-host on her book club that she does every month called the Book Troop. And actually, by the time you're seeing this, the live show has already gone live. I have never read a Gillian Flynn book will not read another one because they're just too dark for me. Like, this book was dark. Like, it really got into my head and depressed the hell out of me. So this book, I don't even know what the character's name is because I read it on ebook, so please forgive me. But basically, we have our main character, and she has survived a brutal massacre of her family years ago. Years ago, her mother, her two sisters were killed, and she believes her brother did it, so her brother's in jail. And she's lived on a lot of money from people donating throughout the years, but now she's kind of run out, and she's like, crap, what am I going to do? She gets a letter from this kill club that's like, hey, we will pay you money to give us some information because we're still thinking your brother's innocent when she thinks her brother's guilty. So she goes and meets them, and it's like this whole like kind of underground murdery type of network where they're all into really dark true crime. Like, it is dark. And so she kind of meets these people, and I don't know, things go haywire. She starts to investigate more into what happened that night so many years ago and if her brother really did it or not. And this book was just bleak. If I could have one word to pick with this book, bleak. Just no sun on the horizon for this book. None whatsoever. I don't know if all of her books are like this, but damn. It just was bleak. Her situation was bleak. You got to see from point of views from that day from her brother Ben, from him, and his situation was bleak. You got to see point of views from her mom, and her situation was bleak. Like, the whole thing was just bleak. There's also a lot of like animal like massacre type of thing, and I was not into that whatsoever. Like, this book is just so bleak, but I mean, it was good. The writing was good. It had me invested. I did not expect the ending. The ending was just like freaking bananas, but I mean, it's just, I think the reason I didn't like it as much is because the animal thing, and because it was just so bleak. Like, sometimes I don't want to read books that make me feel just so depressed and just so downtrodden, and this book did that for me. So I gave it a 3. I'm not mad I read it by any stretch of the imagination. I'm glad I finally read one of her books just to know that they're just not for me. That's not to say, I know she's a beloved author. I can see why. Like, Gone Girl is a great movie. I don't watch that a lot because, again, it's very dark and kind of bleak. Just sometimes some authors are just not for you, and that's okay. So I gave it a 3. It was very interesting, to say the least. Then after that, I think the rest of the books I read this month, I really, really enjoyed. I do want to talk about House of My Mother by Sherry Frankie. This is a memoir, and I'm not reading memoirs this year because they're just personal stories. They are literally about this person's life, and who am I to judge to say if it's 4 or 5 or, you know, it's their personal journey. I will say I did really enjoy this one. If you don't know who Sherry Frankie is, she is the daughter of Ruby Frankie, who was a very big prominent family vlogger on YouTube, 8 Passengers. I never watched her channel, but I was really into the whole family vlogging when it was really big a while ago. You know, I watched Daily Bumps, I watched Cullen and Katie, I watched her sister Ellie and Jared. I don't watch them anymore because I do not agree with family vlogging in general, just because of exposure of kids and things like that. But this is really a first world account of what it's like to grow up on the camera when you don't want to, and that's her life. She grew up with a camera in her face constantly, with her mother documenting everything that she didn't want her to, and then her mother goes on to really hurt her younger siblings, and she does just a beautiful job of telling her story and protecting her siblings, which I really, really enjoy. I think in a time of where everything's online constantly, we do forget to protect our children's safety and identity and things like that. And I'm not, you never really, I don't talk about my kids a lot on my channel because that if they want to talk about their lives in one day, they can, but that's not my job to do so. And I feel like I'm honoring their privacy. You may see them in like montages in my vlogs, or if they'll like sit down with me while I'm talking about books. I'm not really like talking much about them and their personal things because I want to keep that private. That's their decision to do whatever they want to do with when they're old enough to make that decision. But that's just me personally. But overall, I really enjoyed this book. The audiobook was amazing. I would highly recommend it. Moving on to another audiobook I kind of listened to. I'm really into audiobooks lately, and that is Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh. This was one of the books in my 25 books I want to read in 2025. Actually, I think I knocked off like 4 of them this month already, so I will take that like amazingly. This was a great thriller. Please forgive me as I forgot the main characters' names. I want to say one of them was Ruth. I could be 100% wrong, but we follow 2 stories pretty much. We follow a woman who has lost everything. years ago, her husband took her younger daughter to the park, and her daughter was sadly abducted and then murdered. And a few days later, her husband took his own life. And so she is like she is living a bleak life, but she knows who killed her daughter. She knows without a doubt, and she wants to exact revenge on it. And during one time she's in a grieving kind of group, she meets another woman who had kind of the same thing. So they decide to do the whole strangers on a train, like, I'll kill for you, you kill for me, that kind of deal. Then we have another story, which I believe is Ruth, and she is just living in her house one night. Her husband goes out to hang out with his guy friends, and somebody breaks in her house and almost kills her, but she survives, and she has intense trauma after that. And so every person she sees, she feels like is the one who attacked her, and so she kind of has to go on that. So these stories meet up, and it was really interesting. The audiobook was great. It was very twist and turny. I did guess some of the twists, but overall I enjoyed it, would recommend it, gave it a 4 out of 5. Next up, we have The Blonde Identity by Ally Carter, another book on my 25 books I want to read in 2025. So I read this one because she wrote The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year, which was kind of a Christmas Knives Out book, and I love that. So I was like, I have to read this one, and I really enjoyed this one. I listened to this one as well. Great audiobook. This is like if you like the movie Spy with Melissa McCarthy, or The Spy Who Dumped Me with Mila Kunis. It's just kind of a fun spy novel. You have to suspend your disbelief. Does this make any sense at all? No, but if you just want a funny, fun spy book, I would recommend this. So we follow a character named, actually, you know what, she doesn't even know the beginning. She doesn't know her name. She wakes up in Paris, like right in front of the Eiffel Tower, it's snowing, and she's like, I have no recollection of who I am. But then all of a sudden these mafia guys are after her, and she's like, crap. And so this one guy is like, he mistakes her for somebody else, and he's like, we have to get out of here. And so she learns basically that her sister is actually a Chiron spy, and she's a twin sister, so they think she's her sister. So she has to go on kind of a wild goose chase to save her sister while also dealing with this guy. It's very heavy on the romance with the spy aspect, but man, I ate this up. I loved it. See why a lot of people wouldn't love it, but it was just a fun time. Like, it definitely the romance takes the front seat and the spy aspect takes the back seat, but I just really enjoyed it. I give it a 4 out of 5. I really liked it. Then we have Sarah Adams' newest book, Beg, Borrow, or Steal. This is her 3rd book in her When in Rome series, and again, I really enjoyed it. So my least favorite book in this whole series is the first one, When in Rome, and I love the second one. What is it called? A Practice Makes Perfect. Love it. So each one of these books follows a Walker sibling. So the first book followed Noah, the second book followed Annie, and this one follows Emily. And I think she's the oldest of the bunch, or the second oldest. I'm not 100% sure. She is a teacher. All of her siblings have kind of moved on, you know, gotten married, found the love of their lives, and she's just kind of there still. And so then she learns that her nemesis is moving back in town, and that is Jack, and he's also a fellow teacher. And they've always competed their whole lives, like since college, like try to one up each other. And not only that, but he's moving in next door. So she's like, no freaking way. The whole book is clearly an enemies to lovers romance, and it's just so freaking cute. It was just adorable. I really resonate with Emily because she really identified herself as the helper, and to help her siblings and to do whatever she can, and she doesn't know who she is if she can't do that. And I am very much like that, like a caretaker. Like, I don't know who I am if I'm not that, if that makes any sense. So she's really trying to find herself in this book. And then romance, it's super cute. I will say I did like Practice Makes Perfect a little bit more, so I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5. But man, if you just want a small town cutesy romance, I would highly recommend this one. Now, I will say Sarah Adams is known for closed door romances, meaning that she kind of builds up to the scene and then she'll close the door, you know what I'm saying? This one does have a little bit of steam, not a ton, but I do appreciate the fact that the author at the beginning of the book, I believe, will tell you to skip certain chapters as far as the closed door. So that way, in case you still want it to be a closed door novel, you can skip those chapters and that'll be great. So I love that she included that. So I would still recommend it as a closed door romance because of that particular thing, that she tells you exactly when it's going to be and you could skip it. But if you just want a small town cutesy romance series, look no further. And then I have another book that I am so proud I finished, and that is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I say, you know what, I'm going to take that back. As of filming, I'm filming like 2 days before January officially ends, and I have not officially finished this book. Rate it. So I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. I definitely Okay, it's a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. Okay, I'm actually a lot farther along than I thought I was because I am reading this on ebook. So this is the second book in the Fourth Wing series. If you don't know, that blew up a couple years ago. Did I fall for the hype? Absolutely. I ate that junk up. It is basically a book about a character named Violet who goes to this school. I actually just got a shirt from it. Yes, I did. It's a war college, and they have different quadrants. They have like infantry, where soldiers. They have scribes for people that are really into history. They have healers that do that, and then they also have riders, which are dragon riders. And it's like a whole. It reminded me. I think the reason why I loved it so much. Not I think, I know. It's because it reminded me so much of Divergent, and I love Divergent with a strong, strong passion. I do not like the movies, despise the movies, but Divergent, the first book, really resonated a love in me with reading when I had my second win with reading. It reminded me just so much of Triss going into the Dauntless and how they had different challenges and how people would die, and just it was just very intense. And this one just has dragons in it, and it was just, it's fun. It's a fun romantasy. The romance is very heavy in this, but I enjoy it. Now, I did not enjoy, you know, as I'm saying, I'm 3/4 of the way through, the second one nearly as much. I do think it's a bit lengthy. This one's like 600 pages. I don't know how big the first one is, but I feel like it's definitely kind of suffering from second book syndrome, where it's just a little too much. So this one follows more into like the political aspects. There's definitely a lot of romance, steamy times, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I have a good time with this series, but it takes me forever to read it. And I just bought Onyx Storm, so it's going to take me forever to read this one too. But I'm proud I read it. I enjoy it. I will continue to read this whole series because it's just a good time. It always kind of sparks a love of fantasy in it for me, so I'm always happy for it. So if you just want a fun dragon time with not very big expectations, not like really crazy in-depth, I would recommend this series, okay? Okay, so a lot of people don't like it. I can understand it. If you're a really heavy fantasy reader, I can say, oh, you don't like it. I totally can get it. I am not. I am a very light to mid fantasy reader, so there you have it. So I gave it a 4 out of 5. And then my favorite book of the month was a total surprise, and that is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I never even knew about this book till Book of the Month picked it up, and I kept hearing more and more about it, so I was like, fine, I'll pick it up. And let me tell you right now, the audiobook is the way to go for this book. I'd say if you're a big fan of Daisy Jones and the Six or Carrie Soto is Here by Taylor Jenkins Reid, you need to read this book. This book follows a character named Kat, who is a ice dancer, and that's very different from competitive like ice skating, I've learned. The flips and the jumps and things like that. So this book is very mixed media too. So we have two kind of things going on. We have Kat telling her story, and then we have a documentary. A documentary is being released because it talks about Katarina Shaw's and Heath Roach's big journey into the Olympic fame, and then their downfall, their sudden downfall of what happened at the Sochi Olympics. And so you're getting a documentary from you get to hear from a whole bunch of their friends and things like that of what exactly happened. So this one is a love story at heart with Kat and Heath. They've known each other since they were children. They became partners with ice dancing. It's just so full of drama. Like, this book is drama. It's just drama with a capital D is the way I can describe it. Like, if you just want an on and off again love story with like high stakes and just like insanity, I would recommend this book. I love the aspect of ice skating, how Kat was really, that was her first love and not Heath. And Heath was like, all I wanted was you. In fact, the whole time I was reading this book, I thought of the song, All I Wanted Was You by Paramore. That is the literal perfect song for Heath in this point of view. But I ate it up. If you read this book, just listen to it. It's got a full cast. It's an amazing audiobook. 5 out of 5. I keep thinking about these characters after the fact. And the reason, it reminds me so much of Daisy Jones and the Six. Like, after I read that book, I thought it was real. I thought that band was real. I was like, I wonder what's happening. And I think these characters are real. And I know it's a big part of how it's written in the audiobook and things like that. But I ate it up. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. So definitely going to be on my favorites by the end of the year. Can't believe I'm already saying that, but hey, to have a 5-star at the beginning of the year is a great accomplishment, I think. So there you have all the 9 books I read in January. Yeah, I think it was a really good reading month. I hope I can continue on with this stride and just go upward. So yeah, I would love to know what books you read in January. Was it a good start to the year for you, or was it not? Please let me know. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.